Hey, I literally put a shirt on just to film this video. August 31st, so welcome to the August wrap-up. This was a crazy reading month for me, guys. Also, the reason that I'm not in my room, if you're wondering what my background is, it's because I'm in the living room because the kitchen's right there and I'm making soup. Good soup. Anyway, okay, I read 17 books I read this month. But it's okay because this is my last month of freedom before school starts literally in 4 days. I'm literally starting a master's degree, which is crazy. I'm 22 years old. I do not feel like I should be getting a master's degree right now. Not to jump scare you guys, but I read physical books this month. I mean, if you guys know how it works around here, I'm a Kindle girl through and through. Let me get my Kindle. My pride and joy. It literally says it right here, emotional support Kindle. But I don't want to spoil, but I read 4 physical books to celebrate. Let me talk to you guys about the best thing ever, which is that this video is sponsored by Book of the Month. Iconic blue box. Look, it says warning. This box may elicit excitement. Period. If you guys don't know what Book of the Month is, it is a book subscription service. Every month, you will have a book sent to you. It's like Christmas every single month. Their whole mission is to help readers discover books that they will love and to promote the work of like new emerging authors, which is so fun because a lot of times they have like debut novels, early release books. The team basically goes through hundreds of books and then they curate a selection of like 5 to 7 books, I think, ish each month. And then they give you the choice of which book you want to read. Obviously, the best part about Book of the Month is their pricing. You guys use the code CIDER. You can get this for $9.99. So obviously, this was one of the books that I picked. This is The River We Remember. I'll give you guys more of my thoughts when I get into talking about all the books that I read, but spoiler alert, I love this book. It's like historical fiction, literary, also murder mystery vibes. The second choice that I picked was You Again, which is their romance pick. Normally all their books are like different genres, so there's something for everybody. And this is the book that I want to read next. These two people meet each other because they're both sleeping with the same person. How crazy is that? And obviously that's like not the best first impression, but then they end up becoming friends and then falling in love. Like, I'm so excited. I'm literally so excited. So these are just 2 of their picks, but they have a lot more. You can click the link in my description to see all of them and just check out Book of the Month in general. I always love seeing what the book selections are because they have such immaculate taste. Literally, they have such good taste. Also bonus points because they just launched audiobook versions. So whatever book you pick for that month, you can choose to either get the physical version or the audiobook version. Obviously, you can click the link in my description. If you use the code CIDER, you can get your first book for $9.99. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna check on my soup. I kind of want to do a giveaway, so maybe I'll do that. Like, that's kind of fun. So if you guys want one of these books, comment down below which one you want and then which of the other, aren't these 2, but which of the other Book of the Month books you want to read too. One of the other selections. You can find them using the link in my description and then your Instagram handle. And then I'll send one of these to you. Obviously, if you want one of them guaranteed, then Cider, $9.99. Okay, let's get into all the books that I read. There's literally 17 of them. 17 again, Matthew Perry. So I'm literally gonna try to blast through these. The first book that I read this month was Lovers Like Us, which feels like ages ago. What even happened in August? This is the second book in the Like Us series by Kristen Becker Ritchie. It's like in the Addicted Cali Sisters universe. It's like that romance book series that's literally like 200 books long and that I love very much. Part of the series following the first generation of main characters' children. And I rated it 4 stars. I feel like people end up hating like some of the later books, so I'm scared for that. Because so far it's been great. They're all bodyguard romances with like the kids of the core 6. Oh, this is the original book series. I have it on my Kindle. These books following Mafi or Maximov Hale, and then he has a bodyguard romance with his bodyguard Pharaoh. I love Mafi and Pharaoh. It's kind of bad boy, good boy vibe. I don't know, but they're both bad. Like, they're both baddies. This is the second book, obviously, so I don't want to spoil anything. But in the first book, Pharaoh gets assigned to be Mafi's bodyguard. Mafi has had a crush on Pharaoh when he was younger. The first book is literally obviously them getting together, but there's so much tension. I've never read so much tension being written into a book ever in my life. Oh my gosh, the chemistry, crazy. I think I rated the first book a 5 stars. It was so addicting. Like, their chemistry together just cannot look away. Pharaoh kind of reminds me of Reich Meadows from like the original Core 6. And if you don't know, Reich Meadows is literally my favorite person on the planet. Oh my god. I just saw someone on the street who literally looks like Reich Meadows. That's crazy. Anyway, very much like doesn't care about what anyone else thinks. Very caring, protective, really, really super smart. Maybe that's why I like this book. Next book I read was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. It's like dystopia sci-fi. It's kind of an older series. I remember my best friends from middle school, they all read these books. I'm only like 10 years late. I give it a 3 stars. I think that the vibes and like the story and stuff was like cool and had potential. I just think that the execution of the story was just like not to my taste. I have to like be in love with all the characters like at least a little bit, you know, and like I kind of like need to want to marry all the characters at least a little bit. There were a lot of characters in this book. I just unfortunately didn't care about any of them, even though I feel like it had so much good potential. Humans have colonized Mars, and then our main character is a guy named Darrow. There's like this caste system in place where if you're red blood, you're like the lowest of the lows, and then if you're gold blood, you're like elite. Darrow goes undercover as a gold to go to the Gold Academy, and then that's where all of these like war games. I don't know if I'm just smooth brain, but I really could not keep up and could not understand low-key what was happening with these war games. And I think that's why it fell flat for me. Like it was very much action. It's like action politic theme based rather than like character based. The next book that I read was, oh, I DNF'd this book actually. It was Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. I gave it a 2 stars. I DNF'd it like a good way through, like 60% through, I think. It's a romance book. Oliver and Sydney were like childhood best friends. Oliver got abducted as a child, and then 22 years later, he comes back and the two of them meet again, and it's like their romance after he's been abducted. So the premise of it was so interesting to me, but I was definitely more interested in like the abduction part, like figuring out the mystery rather than like the romance. The other thing that threw me off from this is that the way that Oliver spoke, like he speaks like he is on the crown. You know what I mean? Very prim and proper, like not using contraction. And I think that he was written like that because of the 22 years in captivity. But what I don't understand is that they explicitly say that he watched television like every day. He just watched like normal kids TV shows. In which case, wouldn't you be talking then like they do on like television, which is like everyday vernacular? Have you been watching nothing but The Crown on Netflix for the past 22 years? That's what was like throwing me off. Really took me out of the book. I need to check my soup, 1 second. Okay, period. Oh, I've literally been looking forward to this soup all of yesterday. Okay, next book I read was Killer Instinct. Actually, I finished the book series. I then read the 3rd book, which is All In. And then I also read the 4th book, which is Bad Blood. And it's all in the Natural series. There's 4 books in the series. I love this book series. Like these group of kids who work for the FBI because they're like naturally gifted in something, solving like murder mysteries and cold cases. And there's a love triangle, period. No one does a good love triangle like Jenny Lynn Barnes, let me tell you. Our main character is Cassie. Her mom was murdered and she's trying to solve the mystery, and then that's how she ends up joining the FBI. And then she meets everyone else on the team, including the 2 boys. Dean Gurley's Rise for a national anthem. I think that Jennifer Lynn Barnes does a good job of putting in love triangles and then making the girl character ambiguous enough to be a self-insert for every girl reading the book. That is the special sauce, and like it's so angsty. If you want like a fun, just like a fun book series to read, I highly recommend The Naturals. I rated all of them 4 stars. Okay, the next book I read was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I think it's like a 4.75. It was really good. I really liked it. It's a standalone like urban fantasy. It takes place in New York City between 2 rivaling families of witches. We have the Antonova sisters, the Fedora brothers, war with each other. Like they have a rivalry. The youngest sibling of like those families kind of have to go undercover to like spy, but then they end up meeting, don't know it's the other person, then I'm falling in love. So there's like that subplot of romance, but the plot is so big. Oh my gosh, it's so big, and it gets bigger. I thought it was like such a good standalone. I feel like it told such a good completed story within 1 book, and it felt fat enough. All of these characters in it, all of these like character dynamics. The writing was amazing. Like I always love Olivia Blake's writing. Like I think that she does such a good job of like writing just enough to let the reader imagine what is going on. And pet peeve is when authors write too on the nose, and I think that's like not fun at all because I like speculate. I want to speculate and then debrief. Okay, next I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I give it a 4 stars. It's like dual timeline. Eli and Victor, I think is that what their names were? And you're following a timeline 10 years ago when they were roommates in college, and then 10 years later, Victor has just gotten out of prison and he's trying to kill Eli. It's like you're trying to figure out what happened, and it basically about like EOs, extraordinaries, like with superpowers, and they're doing research about that when they're in college. I love when authors use their minor characters because they're like side characters in this, but we get their POVs and their whole backstory and their own plot lines and stuff, and I love when authors do that. It's so underrated. However, I was disappointed because I thought that it was gonna be a secret love story between Victor and Eli, and that's why I wanted to pick up this book. That's not true if you're like me and Delulu. That is not true Lulu. I still really enjoyed it. Next, I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Everyone and their mother has read this book except for me. It's a thriller mystery, and you're basically following the psychotherapist. The silent patient that he's seeing is this woman, and she just like shot her husband in the face 5 times and then hasn't spoken since. Like, in the most not pick-me way possible, I guess the ending to this book. I literally never guessed the ending to book. I never guessed it, ever. Where's my cookie? I give you cookie, you give me cookie. If I ever came across someone who wanted to get into reading but didn't know where to start, I think I'll recommend this book. Okay, next I read Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. She wrote The Bodyguard. It turned out to be one of my favorite romances because this is like a rare adult romance book that does not have spice in it, which is how I prefer my romances to be. So when I figured out that she had a new book, obviously I needed to read it, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4 star. This one is about Sadie, homegirl that's hit by a car at the beginning of this book, and then she develops face blindness. Oh my gosh, this soup, I might have just slayed with this soup, I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't really know who people are, and I really like this book messaging. I think the book's messaging is a lot about like first impressions or like making judgments about people versus actually getting to know them, and like this is her, I guess, learning her lesson the hard way. There's like a little revelation plot twist at the end, but I guessed what it was gonna be. Next were the 3 books that I read physically. Okay, they're technically rereads. I can't even handle myself. Oh my god. Not me getting riled up just looking at the cover of these books. So these are the books that I read. The Foxhole Court. The Raven King. And then the King's Men. The voices were so loud. I know this is one of my favorite book series of all time. It has the biggest Gorilla Grip chokehold to hyperfixation on me. I was getting into the biggest hyperfixation spiral of my entire life one night. It was so bad. It was so bad. It was severe. And the next day, I bought these books to silence the voices. This time I read them and then I annotated literally the entire series. Not only that, I went in and like added sticky notes of like extra content that the author had put on her Tumblr. I literally made an entire encyclopedia contained within these pages. That is the most sunny thing I've ever done in my life. I went through, labeled like all of the famous scenes I want to go back to. How psychotic, like do you do this or are you normal? And like all my favorite quotes. Obviously I rated these a 5. This is a 6-star book series. This is the All for the Game series, if you don't know. It's about a sports team for a fictional sport. And then our main character, Neil, is a teen runaway because his father is wrapped up in the mafia. And there's like found family, a slow burn romance, and just so many unhinged, chaotic things that happen in these books that I can't even say I'll get demonetized. Look at the trigger warnings. Trauma, trauma, trauma. Every single one of the boys and girls on the team, trauma. I'm not gonna claim that these are good books, but I will claim that they have a Gorilla Grip chokehold on me, and the obsession runs so deep. Next is another reread. I reread Ricochet by Kristen Becca Ritchie, which is the 2nd book in the Addicted Calorie Sister series. Actually, I have it here. A little one right here, Ricochet. Oh my gosh, this is the team from Foxhole Court. I read it on my iPad actually so that I could annotate it like electronically. Let me tell you, the reread was just as good as the first time. Better even. The way that I was salivating when I was reading this book, like I don't even know what. Because Reich Meadows is the hottest man I've ever seen in my life. It's so painful and it's so sick and twisted. The fact that he is not a real person, I can't meet him. He's literally a fictional character and I've literally only read him through these books. He's literally the hottest man to ever exist. Can't explain it. The girls who get it. Enough said. Okay, next I read The Fixer by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This one I gave a 3 star. A bit disappointed because her other series, Naturals, The Inheritance Game, are like some of my favorite series of all time. So I was hoping that I would really love The Fixer. The cover looks so dystopian, that's why I picked it up, but no, it just takes place in a high school. It's like a YA thriller murder mystery book series, and this had so much potential. We follow Tess, and she is snatched up by her estranged sister, and her sister takes her to Washington, and she starts school at like this elite academy there where everyone at this school is like somebody, they're like the children are like somebody famous, like White House famous. So the murder mystery and everything around that is like, it's like politic famous. You know, there's a love triangle. That's the reason I wanted to read this, obviously. But the love triangle was not hitting for me. It was a bit disappointing. Low-key, I feel like they were like prototypes for the Naturals and the Inheritance Game's love triangles. Like, I feel like they had to flop so that the other boys could rise. And I respect that. He was really like not giving anything and like not in a hot way. The next book that I read was the month that I read, which was The River We Remember. I rated it 4 stars. I love this book. It takes place in the 1950s, which I randomly really love literary fictions that take place in the 1950s. Or like the 1960s. It's like this niche subgenre of books that I actually really love. No one knows because I don't talk about those books on my channel. I haven't read one in a really long time because I know that I won't talk about it on my channel, so I normally don't read them, which I'm like, I should stop doing that because before I started my channel, I just read whatever I wanted. I would alternate like between reading a literary fiction like this and then reading, I don't know, something else. Reading this made me really miss reading literary fiction like that. Like, this basically takes place in a small town in the 1950s, so right after World War I. There's a murder that happened and you're following the point point of view of the sheriff, slow moving, character driven. You learn the backstories slowly of every single my battery. Everyone in this town is suspicious of the Native American World War II veteran who came back to this town with a Japanese wife. And so because of racial discrimination, everyone thinks that it's them. It was just really, really good. And when you figure out what the murder was, it's really heavy, but I thought it was so well done, so well written. Like it was so such good quality writing. I'm gonna speed up. The last book that I read was Last Violent Call by Chloe Gong. This is her novella. I rated it 3 stars. I just read it for funsies. It's like a little mini mystery thing that happened, but I didn't care that much about that. The characters were from these violent delights. I rated it 3 stars. That's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. Follow me on my socials, all links in the description, and I'll see you all in the next one. Also, enter the giveaway if you want one of these books. Okay, that's gonna be everything. Bye!